Well, folks, my name is Griselda Cooney, and I use the pronoun she, her, and I am a chef teacher here for the Edible Schoolyard, and I also co-lead our Family Nights In Out program here at the Edible Schoolyard. I co-lead it with Patricia. I'm gonna hand it over to Thais.
Hi, everyone. So good to see all these faces. I'm Thais. I'm one of the kitchen teachers here at the Edible Schoolyard Berkeley. And I'm going to pass to Patricia.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for inviting us into your space. I'm Patricia Mock, and I am the Family Nights Out coordinator. My favorite summer fruit are strawberries. And I'm going to turn it over to Esther now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Esther Cook. I use she, her pronouns, and so exciting to see everybody here today. We are going to be starting our session now. So, first, I just have to say my favorite summer fruit, definitely raspberries. So, Russell, if we can get the first slide, I want to just review our session goals. And in this session, we will be identifying and discussing the systems and the routines that we use to support accessibility, inclusivity, and safety in our kitchen space. Thais?
Thanks, Esther. We're going to review the agenda for the day now. So we did the welcome part. Esther revealed the session goals. We're going to show you a video of the kitchen, of our kitchen here. We're going to talk about the accessibility and inclusivity and safety. We're also going to talk about the systems and routines that we have here. And then you're going to have some time to reflect on the information that we are going to give you. We're going to have some time to share information on the Padlet, and to end, we're going to end with a Q&A session. And I'm going to pass back to Esther.
So before we watch this video, I did want to just give you a little bit of background about it. We went into quarantine, and we then had a year of remote learning. And we were trying to find ways to connect with our students. We have over 1,000 students in our school. And our sixth graders had actually never really been on campus. We were trying to figure out a way to at least give them the experience that they would have coming to the kitchen for the first time as closely as we could over Zoom. So normally when the sixth graders start in the kitchen, part of their orientation is to go out into the garden, harvest some fresh herbs, and come in, and each table in the kitchen brews a pot of tea together, and then we sit around the table and talk and have conversation. So we harvested and dried pounds of herbs from our garden. We created tea kits with a tea infuser and a little handout about tea, and also a little bag with some dried herbs in it. And then we made appointments with all of the sixth grade classes remotely. And we went and we shared a cup of tea together, and we showed them this video as an introduction to their kitchen classroom. So let's start the video now.
Welcome to your kitchen classroom.
This chalkboard shows you how we use the 4 Bs in the kitchen.
This is our student art corner. Please meet Cardwoman. I hear that she is a very good listener.
We recycle 5 different things in the kitchen. They are compost, paper, metal, plastic, and glass.
The compost cycle connects the garden and the kitchen.
This is a picture of what the garden looked like before compost. And this is a picture of the garden now.
These are some of the tools and items that you'll be using in the kitchen. Does anything look familiar?
This is where you find things to set the table.
Here are the towels and aprons. Sorry, it looks a little messy. That's better. What do you think?
This is where you find items to make a cool centerpiece for your table.
This is where you'll be doing your cooking.
The cupboard inventory shows you what tools you will find inside.
You will find lots of flavors here.
All chefs need aprons.
This is the kitchen library.
La mesa.
You will be coming here often. Do you see anything familiar?
Here is where we will be baking and roasting.
Work table.
Each table has its own set of tools. You are loved.
We can't wait to cook with you.
Eres amado. Estoy deseando cocinar contigo.
Thank you, everybody, for watching our video. I'm sorry we couldn't provide you with popcorn to eat while you were enjoying it. But now that you've had a chance to see our classroom, I want to talk a little bit about one of our foundational elements in the kitchen, which is accessibility. So Russell, could we have the next slide, please? So what do we mean when we talk about accessibility? The Edible Schoolyard kitchen is the heart of the school, and it's used for many purposes besides our cooking classes. Teachers, counselors, clubs, all use the kitchen. We want the space to be as user-friendly as possible for our students so they can move with confidence and independence in the space, and also for others when we're busy teaching and they need to come in and use the kitchen for whatever reason. So I want to go over some of the things, and a lot of these things are really actually no-brainers, but I think what is the overriding theme is there's intentionality behind these systems that we have. So first and foremost, labeling. My best advice is to label everything. It's great for identification purposes. It's wonderful to support reading, and for visual learners, our labels are printed in a friendly font that's very simple for students to read. And there's an understanding that we convey to them that when they see a label, that's a word or a term that we want them to learn. Color coding is also a huge tool for us in the kitchen. It's a visual clue that can indicate where things go. You saw the toolboxes in the video. By color coding each of the tools, when we find an item, such as a peeler, out and about in the kitchen, we know exactly which toolbox it belongs to. We color code our tools, the tables, towels, even recipes. Because we have 3 tables in the kitchen, when we are making our recipes, we often do write different colors on the recipes so we know that each table has their own copy. We also have a big chalkboard, a 3-foot by 4-foot chalkboard on wheels in the kitchen. And many students these days have never seen or drawn on a chalkboard because most classrooms these days have a whiteboard. Our chalkboard is a valuable tool for us and one that the students see as a bit of a novelty. We use it to create visual aids to accompany our lessons. It can be moved around the kitchen and be used to capture ideas. And it's another way that we support our visual learners. We sometimes have our student artists to create a visual aid for us. And we have lots of students who love to contribute something to the hardscape in the kitchen. Another aspect for accessibility for us is open shelving. We are constantly encouraging students to use their powers of observation. We find often the students ask a question that they could answer for themselves. By giving them time, we allow them a time to figure it out. And by having our tools and equipment in plain sight and grouping like things together, we give students a clear message of visual information. We have in our kitchen space 3 tables that we use to divide up the class. We're very, very fortunate that we are able to have a teacher at each table. So when we are leading classes, we have roughly a 10-to-1 ratio student to teacher. It is a huge privilege that we are blessed to have. Small groups mean that our students have access to their teachers and each other. We encourage them to see each other as resources. And if they have a question, ask a fellow student before asking the teacher. Visual aids are also a big part of our classroom. They tell a story, and we rely on them to convey information in an interesting and vibrant way. Students can become teachers by interpreting the visual aid for the class. Visual learners use them to understand relevant concepts, and we also use them to provide instruction to students so that they can access information independently wherever they need to go. If you can find Thais on your screen, you might see the chalkboard behind her, and that is supporting our spring soup recipe. And that would give information as to what part of the vegetable goes where. Is it going into the stock pot or is it going into the soup pot? This is something that students have access to during class, so they can go and check if they have a question about that. We're also big on signs in the kitchen. Have you ever been known to put up a Post-it to remind yourself of something? Well, we have, and the signs in the kitchen serve that very same purpose. They convey information when and where you need it. For example, we color code our cutting boards, and we use blue for onions and garlic and white for everything else. We have signs that state this directly above the cutting boards so students can make the right choice when getting their tools. Students love the kitchen and often want to contribute something permanent to the space. Making signs is a win-win. We get student buy-in, and they get the satisfaction of knowing that visitors are going to be benefiting from their beautiful artwork and guidance. Art is another thing that we use very intentionally in the kitchen. We have a student art corner, and students love to contribute and to look at the work there. We have Card Woman, who you might have noticed in the video, as she's a much beloved sculpture who's become an institution over the years. And bringing art into the kitchen makes a statement of intention. We value beauty. We value diversity, and displaying art sends that message without saying a word. Labels and recipes are oftentimes what students use to navigate themselves through a lesson or a recipe. And we happen to have a very amazing team to support our students who have low vision by being able to translate some of our content into Braille. So we have our recipes able to be translated into Braille. And that amazing team has also created clear labels in Braille that can go over the labels that identify items in the kitchen. And lastly, we have our handwritten recipes. As you'll see in this slide, our recipes are handwritten and illustrated, and our students really appreciate that. They see a lot of printed information in their textbooks, their worksheets, their handouts, etc. So we make a point of handwriting and illustrating our recipes. We think that it's more intimate, more personal, and sometimes less intimidating. When our students see a recipe, it looks inviting and intriguing. Students like to take home paper copies of the recipes to use and also to color. So now we are going to be passing this over to Griselda, who will be talking about inclusivity.
Thank you, Esther. Yeah, so those are some of the core elements that we think about when we set up our kitchen. And I also just want to preference, I think you all know, but our program is in its 27th year of existence. So like Esther said, we are very privileged to have the support and the resources to have our spaces look the way they are. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to watch the video one more time. But this time, we're going to invite you to take a closer look and think about this prompt when you are looking through the video. What do you notice that makes you feel welcome to the space? I'm going to put that in the chat, and you're going to watch the video again, and we can capture your thoughts in the chat. So there is the prompt again. What do you notice in the video that makes you feel welcome into the space? Like I said, we're going to watch it and you're going to capture your thoughts in the chat. Russell, you want to play the video again? Thank you.
Come on in.
Welcome to your kitchen classroom.
This chalkboard shows you how we use the 4 B's in the kitchen.
This is our student art corner. Please meet Cardwoman. I hear that she is a very good listener.
We recycle 5 different things in the kitchen. They are compost, paper, metal, plastic, and glass.
The compost cycle connects the garden and the kitchen.
This is a picture of what the garden looked like before compost. And this is a picture of the garden now.
These are some of the tools and items that you'll be using in the kitchen. Does anything look familiar?
This is where you find things to set the table.
Here are the towels and aprons. Sorry, it looks a little messy. That's better. What do you think?
This is where you find items to make a cool centerpiece for your table.
This is where you'll be doing your cooking.
The cupboard inventory shows you what tools you will find inside.
You will find lots of flavors here.
All chefs need aprons.
This is the kitchen library.
La mesa.
You will be coming here often. Do you see anything familiar?
Here is where we will be baking and roasting.
Work table.
Each table has its own set of tools. You are loved.
We can't wait to cook with you.
Eres amado. Estoy deseando cocinar contigo.
Thank you, Russell, for showing the video. Folks, you captured everything that I was going to say. So we can just all read the chat and everybody can just go home and I can go to the beach in Hawaii. Just kidding. So yes, I love what everybody captured. So like Esther said, when we are setting up our kitchen space, or when this kitchen space was set up, we are looking at core elements of what we want the space to feel. We're thinking about accessibility to the space. And also the most important is, how do you make people feel when you come into your spaces? And we really, really are intentional about inclusivity. And inclusivity means a lot of things. And I know that with this little prompt that we just had you to respond to, a lot of you captured what we were thinking when we bring things into our space. Every time that we put up a piece of art, or we put up a sign, or a label, we're always thinking of not just the aesthetic of that sign or that label. We're thinking about, you know, the different learning styles, the different cultures that are being represented in our school. Like Esther said, we serve about 1,000 students, and we actually see all students. We're middle school with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And we want them to be able to walk into their kitchen classroom. It's not our kitchen classroom, it's their kitchen classroom, and have every aspect of their home life, of their abilities to learn, represented in our kitchen space. We also have about 22 languages that are spoken on campus. So we are also mindful of bringing elements of culture from around the world. I know that somebody put on the chat that everybody has a uniform. So everyone gets an apron when they walk in. That is one of the first things that the students do when they put their stuff away in the cubbies. They grab an apron and they put it on. That way everyone is, looks the same. And there are some students where they might not want to wear an apron, and we're okay with that. They don't have to. But after they've been working with flour for like 10 minutes when we're making pasta, and they get flour all up in their nice, sweatshirt that they just bought, then they'll put the apron on. Like Esther said, all of our recipes are handwritten, but they're also all vegetarian. We want to make sure that everything that we teach the students is, everybody can participate in the eating part of the lesson. And so we have a lot of students who don't eat meat. And so we make sure that the recipes that we teach here are actually also adaptable to go home, and we'll say, we understand that you would like to have, chicken with this fried rice, but this is a method that you can take home, and you can make this fried rice at home and add protein if you like. But we just want to make sure that we feel all included in the process, and we're going to make it a vegetarian vegetable fried rice. We also, of course, like Esther said, all of the art and the decor. We use oilcloths, our curtains, our enamelware, everything, like I said, is, we think we're very intentional of like what comes into our spaces and where they're going to go. I mean, sometimes we'll sit in front of a piece of art for like 20 minutes until we're like, okay, this looks good here. We even ask students sometimes, where do you think it would look good? Where should we hang up the sign? So they are also taking ownership of the space. We have a real, we have a different kind of understanding of what participation looks like in our spaces. And participation is not, the student sits and listens to us and then they do what we want them to do. We want them to understand that by just being in the kitchen, you're participating. What that looks like is maybe a student comes in and doesn't want to cook, doesn't want to participate in the activity that is happening for the day. So we will offer a cup of tea. We have different areas in the kitchen where we allow students to sit. So we have benches, we have little nooks and crannies in the kitchen where they are welcome to take a cup of tea, maybe read their book. We have an amazing library where we offer them to look at cookbooks or different books about food and allow them to sit, have a cup of tea and read. We also give them the option about maybe going out to the garden and collecting flowers to make bouquets for our tables, or to be taken to their teacher or to the principal. We obviously ask them if there's a sign that they would like to make. They will have the opportunity to draw a sign or a drawing or a piece of art. And also, since our recipes are hand written and hand drawn, we might ask them to color in some of the recipes that we have for them to take home. We have paper copies of the recipes for them to take it home for their families. And then we also put it on like their Google Classroom, or we'll have the academic teacher put it on their classroom, their Google Classroom, so that they can have access to it at home. As you can see here on this slide, we have our inclusive practices that Edible Schoolyard staff actually came up with. And we have these, if you come into our kitchen, it's one of the first things that you will see as you walk right by them. And we use these with our lessons, and sometimes we will match up our talking points to highlight some of these inclusive practices. And this is like group agreements that students see that we are taking every effort so that everybody can feel included and have their voice heard. Let's see. I'm now going to pass it over to Thais, where she's going to introduce some systems and routines that we use here in the kitchen.
Thanks, Grace. Do you want to talk about knife safety before?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Thais. That is another big element in our kitchen space. And knife safety, we feel, just like inclusivity and accessibility, is another core element in our teaching here at the Edible Schoolyard. Before any student starts cooking, we go over our knife safety. And when we're thinking about 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders using knives, we want to set them up for success. We want to make sure that they understand that, you know, these are real tools. They are not, you know, like plastic knives. They're real chef knives. And that the most important thing that we want is for them to be physically safe in the kitchen and emotionally safe. So physically safe means that we don't want anybody to get hurt. And then of course, emotionally safety is we want to make sure that nobody feels like they're going to be harmed by the knives. So we have some habits, rules, and skills that we go over to ensure that everybody is in agreement with like following these safety habits that we have in the kitchen. And emotionally safe, I think, is super important to acknowledge, because we want to make sure that nobody makes any comments about hurting anybody with knives or making any gestures with the knives of hurting themselves or hurting others. And also just like talking about, you know, how potentially you can hurt somebody with a knife. So that is a core like element that we have. We really talk about that. And another thing, when we are using real knives, we are letting our students know that we trust them, that we trust that they're going to be able to follow the habits and the rules and the skills that we are teaching them to be able to use these real tools. And, you know, when we are thinking about our knife safety, you know, there are just some things that are just like common sense. Like it's common sense to use this knife this certain way. And when we start off with the 6th graders, this is the first lesson that we do with them. They don't even start to cook. The first lesson is just going over the how we're going to use the knives. And then the next class, when they come in, then they will use the knives and we'll review them. And we will always be checking in with the students and making sure that they feel comfortable using the knives and the tools. And it's okay if they don't want to use a knife. We have other knives in our toolbox that we have paring knives, we have chef knives, we have wavy knives. And then we also give them options of like using a cheese grater to grate something, or using a table scraper to like, you know, cut. And we also have other tools for them so that they can feel comfortable using the tools. I think that's it in the knife safety. Thank you, Ms. Thais. I'll send it over to you.
Thanks, Griselda. All right. So I want to talk to you about the systems and routines that were developed and adapted over this 25 years here in the kitchen to support students' independence and how they collaborate as a team. And also bringing up accessibility and inclusivity. So we want them to understand the space and know where everything is and where it's supposed to go after they use it. And we also want them to understand what they can expect from the kitchen experience and what is expected of them in the space. We like to remind them that the kitchen is theirs and they are supposed to take care of it, because we don't just teach cooking classes. We teach kitchen classes, and part of it is to take care of the space for themselves and also for the others that will come after them. And also for them to work as a group to cook delicious food and maintain the space clean and organized. So the first system Esther already talked about like the system that we have the 3 tables, and we divided the students in 3 different tables that are color coded. So each table has 1 color. So the students know, oh, I am going to the green table for the kitchen classes. And all the we have 1 toolbox per table, and all the tools in the toolbox are color coded, so they know where to go after. We also have 1 compost bin at each table, and the compost is empty out in the garden in the end of the class. So we have that connection with the garden. And so in each table, each group has its own cooking station that has a sink, its set of cutting boards, and also a two stovetops, 2 burners. We have 1 industrial oven that is shared with the whole class. So another system that we have is to help organizing the tools and equipment in the kitchen. And once again, so they know where the things are and where to put them back after they're done using them. So like I said, the tools are color coded. The tools from the toolbox are color coded. We have buckets with that are grouped by the material they're made of. So we have a bucket for metal spoons, we have a bucket for wooden spoons, and a bucket for plastic spatulas. Like it was mentioned, the cutting boards are color coded. So we have the blue one for garlic and onion, and the white one for everything else. So they know that if they are gonna mince garlic, they need to use the blue cutting board. Esther talked a lot about the labels and signs. We have labels everywhere. Everything has a label on in the kitchen. We just miss maybe a label to the labels. And yeah, so we labeled all the equipment, the tables, the places like library also, the cubby, so they know where to put their stuff when they come in. And also we have lots of signs that will help them engaging with the space and their tools. For example, we have a sign in the water, by the water, water sign in the door, the fridge door, so they know where to find cold water to drink. We have inventory cards for toolboxes and the cooking station cabinets. And we also have posters everywhere to share the social values we have and send a message that diversity is respected in the space. Another system that we have here is a cleaning, our cleaning systems. We encourage them to clean the clean as you go system, where they wash and clean the tools right after they are done using them. So they don't get like stacked in the sink. And also we created a cleanup worksheet with other jobs that needs to be done. I'm gonna talk more about it after. And we have a dishwashing rotation where each time one different table is responsible to do the dishes. So all students get to help and experience using the industrial dishwasher that we have here in the kitchen. And they actually have a lot of fun doing the dishes there. Another system that we have is a reflection system to give them a chance to reflect on their participation in the kitchen experience. So we have, as you can see in the picture, we have a garland with the kids where our kitchen values. And we invite them to think about some of them and how was their participation for the day. concerning the beauty, like if they are leaving the space as beautiful as they found, clean as you go, if they did their part on doing the dishes and cleaning their tools, if they were safe in the room, hygiene, and also, of course, the food that they made. So in the end of each lesson, each class, after they are done cleaning stuff and also eating, we ask them to rank the food that they made from 1 to 5. And when they didn't like, we also ask them why you didn't like, and what would you do to make it better next time. And sometimes we also give them surveys, especially when we create new lessons or we adapt old lessons. So we want to understand how that lesson went for them, and we can make it better next time. So those were the systems, some of the systems and examples of systems that we have here in the kitchen. On the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about the routines that we have, and I'm going to basically follow the flow of each class. So every time a student come here, he can expect those things. So the first thing, we ask them to wait outside because we might not be ready to have them, and we like to greet them outside. And well, we welcome them, and then we ask them to come in and put their stuff in the cubbies so they don't leave the backpacks to scatter on the floor. We tell them to get aprons and go to their assigned tables. Then we have a chef meeting where we explain to the whole group about the lesson focus and also the recipe that will be cooked with them. And then each chef teacher will go to their table and we always start with the check-in, kind of like what we did in this session. We ask them to tell their names and their pronouns, the pronouns that they use. And we come up with a fun question to get to know a little bit more about them. And it could be like your favorite vegetable, your favorite fruit of the season. And we also give more instructions on how to cook the recipe. And they can wash their hands and start cooking. We remind them to clean as you go, to clean as they go. And we present them to the cleanup worksheet, as you can see in the slide. So we created that worksheet with different other jobs that needs to be done to maintain the space clean and organized and beautiful. And we even created jobs that could be done just by one person, and also jobs that could be done by two people. So they can pair up with their friends and do the job that needs to be done. So as a one-person job, we ask them to clean the compost bucket, empty it out and wash it, wipe the table, and wash and clean the platters and pots that they would use after they used to cook stuff. And the two-person jobs to clean the toolbox, sweep the floor, and clean the cooking station. And we also have this part to remind them again that the space is theirs and they're responsible to maintain it beautiful and clean. So there's a more proactive area that they will observe the room and see if there's another job that needs to be done. They could do that. So before COVID, we after cleaning the table, they would set the table to eat. So they would put a tablecloth on the table, flowers, use an item from the altar. We have an altar with gifts that were given to the kitchen, and we used to use them as a centerpiece for the tables. And they would set the table with plates and forks and silverware and cups, even fold the napkins, and we would eat together and have conversations. But unfortunately, with COVID, we decided not to eat inside the kitchen. So once the food is ready, we serve the food and we eat outside with them. And yeah, and the last routine that we have is, like I mentioned, actually we have the rotating system of dishwashing, right? So each table at each time will go to the dishwasher area to do the dishes. And we close with the class together at their tables, and we ask them to rate the food. And if we have more time, we can have an extra activity, but basically that's our routine, to ask them to rate the food that they done and they eat. So those were, this was like the flow of the class, and the students can expect to do that every time they come in the kitchen. I'm gonna pass to Patricia now for her to explain the next activity. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Thais. So we've given you a lot of information about things that we do to promote accessibility, inclusivity, safety, and some of the systems and routines that we've found useful for our kitchen classroom. So now we're going to have an opportunity for reflection and discussion. So we're going to use a Padlet, and I believe Russell's going to drop a Padlet into the chat, a link to the Padlet. And if you could just think, we're going to take about 5 minutes to reflect on this prompt. And that is, when thinking about your cooking classes, what systems and routines could you create to support accessibility, inclusivity, and safety? So if you could take 5 minutes to put your answers into the Padlet, and then we'll come back together, and then we'll have an opportunity to share some of the ideas on the Padlet.
Okay, so some of the things that are being captured into the Padlet are fantastic. And of course, your questions, we'll try to answer some of them here in the next section of our session here. Yeah, I love this one about inclusivity. Like, what are some systems or routines you could create to support inclusivity? And somebody wrote recipes in different languages. A pass the plate type event where food from different cultures are featured. Bonus, the kids could pick a country and food from their own culture. Culturally diverse ingredients and menus. Students can bring in recipes from their own culture. Discuss family recipes. Love that. Accessibility. Definitely need to have the kitchen items labeled. I could also use for signs. Lots of pictures in recipes. Have tables that are wheelchair accessible. We have that we actually, with our tables, we can put a smaller table up against it And then we also have a sink in one of the stations that is ADA accessible. So that is something to think about. Yeah, visual access, have open storage spaces, color codes, have posters in English and Hawaiian. Thinking about different food ways to do a task like getting leafy greens into smaller pieces. You could tear, cut, pre-cut for students, etc. Kitchen carts. We have a set of equipment in each of our 3 kitchen cart stations are set up with tools for each recipe before students arrive. Yeah. And then the safety parts, food sensitivity waiver, allergy information. That's one thing that we also get from the counseling department. We will know beforehand if students have allergies to any food items. And then, the students are also able to tell us. So what we started doing this year is we actually, on the calendar before a class comes in, we actually put on there like, the dietary needs for this class. For example, one student is can't have any sesame or can't have peanuts. So we on our calendar, we know, a couple weeks before of the dietary needs so that we can prepare accordingly and make sure that we have the gluten-free pasta or the vegan cheese available for the students so that they can participate in the lesson. There are so many wonderful ideas here. And again, we appreciate everybody who has added some of your thoughts here. Now for this next portion, this is going to be a Q&A. And I know there's some things that you're still wondering about, and I know that you've kind of captured some of the questions on the Padlet, but I'm wondering, this is your time to ask us questions. If there's anything that you're still wondering about, this is a time for us to answer those questions. So the way that this is going to work is, I think Russell, if you can unmute people, and then if you could raise, actually put your name in the chat, and then we will call you to ask your question as you are being called at.
Chris, I think we have a lot of questions already in the Padlet. Maybe we can read them.
Perfect. So let's see. That's a great idea. So I will read the question, and then Thais, Esther, or Patricia, if you feel like you want to answer them, that would be great. Okay. So the first question on the Padlet is, how often do students have class in the kitchen? Who would like to take that question?
I'll take that one.
Okay, Patricia.
So we see all 1,000, roughly 1,000 students at that are 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And we see them anywhere from 4 to 6 times a semester. So 4, 5, or 6 times in the fall, 4, 5, or 6 times in the spring semester. The students come in a block period. So in the kitchen classes, we see them with their humanities teachers, their English and their history teachers. So the class time is about 90 minutes. And we are seeing a rotation at a time. So we might see the 6th grade classes over a period of about 4 or 6 weeks. So they'll get like 4 or 5 classes, and they're learning a different recipe and different skills each time. So that's how often we see them.
All right. Thank you, Patricia. Let's see. I have problems navigating dairy-free, gluten-free, etc. diets for my recipes. Any tips?
Yeah, so we try, I think Griselda said, we have the information of who has an allergy for those classes. And most of our lessons, I would say most, like all the recipes can be adapted, because our focus is more like on vegetables than anything else. So like when we make pasta, we can make the pasta dough without eggs if a student is vegan, or change the kind of dairy to vegetable milks. And yeah, we think about that when we choose a recipe that we can adapt for those restrictions. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you. There was a question that was in the chat. Are the students tested in the Edible Schoolyard project? Can you expand on that question? User Beatrice Ross. Are you talking about like COVID tested or allergy tested? We'll wait for that answer. Let's see, what is another question? What's the procedure for when a student misuses a knife or tool intentionally and unintentionally?
Oh, I can take that. So the students are so excited to use the knives. And because they are real professional quality knives, we have 6-inch and 8-inch chef knives. Students love to use them, but they are sometimes so excited that they may not be safe. If we see a student who is using a knife in an unsafe manner, first thing to do is kind of just go over and ask them to pause and just look at what they're doing and see if they can self-correct. And if they're not sure of what they're doing that needs to be corrected, then we can offer them some advice. If a student is doing an intentional unsafe act, that is when I would step aside with them and point out to them that this is really about cooking here. Everybody's here to have a good time. And if they cannot feel on board with making sure that everybody's enjoying the experience, then I'm going to ask them to switch to a different job. But we find that for the most part, students are really, they exchange respect with respect. We show them respect by offering them real tools, and they show us respect by using them properly.
Great, thank you, Esther. There's another question, says, what is the student ratio, teacher-student ratio per class? Esther, you want to take that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What is the teacher-student to ratio per class?
Oh, we're super lucky. As we said before, I think that we have 3 teachers, 1 teacher to man each table. So we have roughly anywhere from 8 to 10 students. Some of the larger classes, we may get up to a dozen students at a table, but generally speaking, the ratio is about 10 to 1 students to teacher.
Great. Let's see.
I just saw a question on the chat asking if our school is a public school. And yes, Martin Luther King Middle School is one of the Berkeley Unified public schools. So we have 3 public schools, middle schools in Berkeley. So King is the largest of the 3 middle schools in BUSD. So we serve about 1,000, a little over 1,000 students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
There's another question in the chat that's useful, is suggestions if you don't have a full kitchen. Who would like to take that one?
I can take that one. yes, as you can see, it took us 2.5 decades to build up the kitchen that we have now. But we do have a kit that we put together, and it's called No Kitchen, No Problem. And it is a collection of basic tools that all fit into a plastic bin that's about 2.5 feet by 3 feet. And it has all kinds of items that are able to be used in multiple ways. So we'll have some mixing bowls in there that can be used to hold food, to serve food, and also to hold water to wash dishes. We have a mortar and pestle and a grater, peelers, knives, cloths. So this is something that's portable and that can be used for all different types of recipes. It doesn't have a way to cook per se, but it would be a way to prepare fresh foods like salads and garden rolls and things like that. Easily add into that kit a portable butane stove, the little cassette stoves that come in a little kit that's about 1 foot square. But, you know, we find that you can do so many recipes with a very, very basic set of equipment. And that is something that we can share out afterwards too, is the inventory of our No Kitchen, No Problem kit.
Right. Okay, so let's see. I see that user Beatrice Cross asked, are the students tested like in science and math classes? So do we test the students? Thais, you wanna?
Yeah, we don't grade the students in the kitchen. They come with, to the kitchen, they come with the humanities teacher, so in English and history. They go to the garden with the science teachers, and neither the kitchen or the garden, we don't grade them. We do like I mentioned, some reflection on their participation in the kitchen, but we're not part of the grading system of the school. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think it does. Let's see. Another question is, how do you broach the topic if kids are picky eaters and don't eat greens? Wow, that's a good one.
I can answer that. We have a former 6th grade teacher who had introduced me to a wonderful phrase called the no thank you portion. And that is when a student does not want to try something, you can serve them a very, very tiny portion. First and foremost, though, students are never, ever forced to eat anything in the classroom. We encourage them to try and find that using humor is often a really great way to do that. So if a student says, oh, I don't want any of that, I might just put literally 1 kernel of, say, barley on their plate, or maybe 1 shred of lettuce, and say, let me know if that's going to be too much for you, and I can cut that in half. But oftentimes, I think it's important for students to be able to say no, and that the message there is, we respect your boundaries. I've seen from experience that oftentimes a student will change their mind once they've seen other students enjoying a food. So oftentimes we let the students do the work themselves, and they have the option to say no, and they also have the option to change their mind.
Thank you, Nick, for putting the No Kitchen, No Problem write up into the chat. Thank you for that. There's also a question here about family nights in, family nights out, and how those are run here at the Edible Schoolyard. And we're actually hosting a session tomorrow where you can learn all about that. I'm putting a plug in for tomorrow at 4:30. So you can join Patricia and myself as we talk about family engagement and doing a little cooking demo. So thank you for that. Let's see. Do students have to attend food certification classes?
No, they do not. We're teaching them this. This year, we were especially conscious of COVID, and the students were all asked to wear masks in the kitchen classroom. They were all asked to sanitize their hands and wash their hands using soap and water. But no, they don't have to do any kind of food certification.
Great. Let's see. Another question is, do you have a vendor that you use to make your kitchen station toolboxes? Maybe Esther, you can talk about our toolboxes.
Sure. So once we identified that there was a basic set of tools that students would use every time, we thought to create a box for each table where they'd be accessible and easy to access. So we wrote a grant. We got a grant that we used, and we contacted a local fabricator, and we talked to him about what we wanted. We gave him a little bit of an idea of the tools that we were going to be needing to house in this box, and he sourced some recycled lumber for us. It is a former gymnasium floor from another school, which is just kind of a fun thing to talk to kids about. And he created this toolbox, but he brought it into the kitchen without nailing or gluing any partitions in place. We then asked the students for their input, and we asked them to play around with these boxes and to create the spaces in the way that they thought made sense. So the students had a hand in the design process of creating the toolboxes, and we've had those toolboxes for, oh my gosh, over a dozen years now.
Great. Here's a wonderful question. What is the actual overlap between what actually occurs in the kitchen and curriculum in the garden?
I can try to answer that. So most of the things that are grown in the garden, we use in the kitchen. So we have meetings with the gardeners to talk about the next crops. And so we try to align the recipes that we're gonna make with the kids and the crop that is coming. Sometimes we overlap like the same classes, the same grades, and sometimes the kids just go to the garden in the morning and comes to the kitchen in the afternoon. And then for that, we try to link something related, but mostly it's like, oh, we harvest these greens yesterday, and then we are also cooking it the day after. So that's a really fun experience for them. But it doesn't happen all the time because the scheduling something like that with 1,000 students, it's a little bit complicated, but sometimes we can do it and it's really fun.
Great. Esther, I'm wondering if you could take this question. How do block period teachers afford to give such a significant time for garden and kitchen classes?
Yes, thank you for that question. That is a great question. When we first started in 1997 having the kitchen classes, there was a real concern with the classroom teachers because this coincided with the teach to the test era, and they looked at going to the garden or going to the kitchen as a loss of instructional minutes in the classroom. So we proceeded to institute these weekly curriculum meetings with the classroom teachers. And we would arrive at these meetings with platters of food, and we were there to listen. We asked the teachers, what is your curriculum map, and what support could we offer when the students are in the garden and the kitchen? Slowly over time, they came to see that the time in the garden and the kitchen was not time away from the classroom, but really just a different venue for students to have a sensory experience that supports what they're learning in the classroom. Because teachers have different curriculum maps, it may be that we would be cooking a lesson in the kitchen where it relates to, say, their history of China. And if they are currently studying that, it's perfect alignment for their academic classroom material. If it's something that they haven't gotten to yet, then we can say this is a preview. And if it's something that they've already done, then we pose it as a review session. But with the help of the classroom teachers, we were really able to identify the areas in the curriculum that we can really support with the sensory kitchen and garden experiences.
Thank you, Esther. There's another question. Is your annual budget provided by the school system, or is it through grants and donations from the community?
I can answer that. We are a nonprofit, so we do fundraise for our budget. We do get some support from the PTA, which helps to support our Family Nights In program. But for the most part, we are independent and we are not employees of Berkeley Unified School District.
Great. Feel like I know there's more questions, but let's see, what is the last one? I'm just going to take one last question. Where do you get your ingredients? Where do our ingredients come from?
I can answer that one. So as much as possible, we try to use ingredients that is grown in our garden, in the Edible Schoolyard garden. And we do work with the garden teachers in terms of the crop rotation, what they're planting and when they're planting it. So like at the end of this past school year, a few weeks ago, we were talking about what lessons we might be doing at the start of the school year, so that they could plant crops during the summer that would be harvested in the fall. So we're working with them closely with the garden teachers in terms of using up as much stuff as we can in our kitchen classes. That being said, we can't produce enough food in the garden to provide ingredients for every class that we teach in the kitchen. So we are fortunate to be a few blocks away from Monterey Market, which is an amazing like greengrocer, just a few blocks away. So we have a great relationship with them, and we get all kinds of fresh produce and fruits and everything from Monterey Market. We shop frequently, like 2 or 3 times a week. And then we also supplement our shopping with bulk shopping, like from Costco or Trader Joe's or Cash and Carry. So that's where we source our foods. So.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for all of the questions. We are going to wrap up this session. We will be answering the questions that we didn't in the Padlet, but if you have other questions that you want to ask, you can also email us at trainings@edibleschoolyard.org, and we will be sending some of the visuals. I know that somebody wants a copy of our 4Bs because you couldn't read them in the video, so we'll collect some resources in our kitchen values too. I saw that, and we'll be happy to send those over to you guys. Again, thank you so much for all of your time, for joining us, and we hope that you have a fantastic summer and a very successful start to your school year in the fall, and a very successful 22-23 school year. Thank you again for joining us, and we appreciate your time.